Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to control entire rooms without uttering a single word? They don't argue, they don't plead, they don't chase validation or scramble for attention like everyone else. They simply step back, and suddenly everything shifts. The energy changes, people start questioning themselves, others begin desperately seeking their attention. What if I told you this isn't some mysterious talent you're born with, but a psychological principle discovered by Carl Jung that you can master starting today? What if the secret to gaining respect, influence, and genuine power lies not in what you say or do, but in what you refuse to give away? Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist who decoded the human mind like no one before him, uncovered something absolutely shocking about human nature that most people will never understand. When you stop being emotionally available to everyone, when you quit reacting to every provocation, when you choose strategic silence over automatic responses, the entire world around you goes into complete crisis mode. Why? Because people have been controlling you through your predictability, and the moment you become unpredictable, their entire power structure over you crumbles like a house of cards. But here's what Jung discovered that will completely blow your mind and change how you see every relationship in your life. The people who get most desperate when you become unavailable, who panic when you don't respond immediately, who get angry when you set boundaries, reveal exactly how much you've been manipulated without even realizing it. They expose themselves as emotional parasites who've been feeding off your energy, your reactions, your constant availability, like vampires feeding on blood. And today, we're going to explore how to cut off their supply forever and reclaim the power you never knew you had. Think about the last time someone really upset you. What did you do? You probably explained yourself, defended your position, tried to make them understand your perspective, maybe even apologized for things that weren't your fault. You reacted exactly how they expected you to react. You played right into their hands. But what if, instead of all that emotional chaos, you had simply said nothing? What if you had just walked away? What if you had become completely unavailable to their drama? Jung understood something that most people spend their entire lives never figuring out. Your reaction is your weakness, and your silence is your strength. From the moment you were born, from your very first breath, you've been programmed with a lie so fundamental, so deeply embedded in your psyche, that you probably don't even question it anymore. Society, your family, your teachers, your friends, everyone around you taught you that your worth as a human being depends entirely on how available you are to others. Answer immediately when someone calls or texts. Say yes when you mean no. Drop everything to help people who wouldn't do the same for you. Explain yourself constantly, even when you owe no explanations. Justify your choices to people who have no right to judge them. Defend your boundaries to people who should respect them automatically. Sound familiar? This is your daily reality, isn't it? Jung called this the persona, the fake mask we wear to be accepted and loved by a world that doesn't actually care about our authentic selves. But here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to tell you, the truth that might save your life if you're brave enough to face it. This excessive availability isn't a virtue like you've been told. It's actually a sophisticated form of self-abandonment. It's emotional self-destruction disguised as kindness. Every time you respond instantly to that toxic friend's drama, every time you sacrifice your peace to maintain someone else's comfort, every time you give explanations you don't owe to people who don't deserve them, you're literally giving away pieces of your life force, your vital energy, your very soul. Think about this for a moment and really let it sink in. Who in your life only contacts you during their crisis moments? Who treats you like an emotional emergency button they can press whenever they need validation, attention, or someone to dump their problems on, then completely ignores you when they're feeling fine? Who expects you to be available 24/7 for their needs but is mysteriously busy when you need support? These aren't relationships, they're energy extraction systems, and you've been the willing victim, the volunteer at your own emotional slaughter. Jung understood something that will change your entire perspective on human relationships. People who demand constant access to you, who get upset when you don't respond immediately, who make you feel guilty for having boundaries, don't actually want you as a person. They want what you provide: emotional comfort, distraction from their problems, validation for their choices, someone to make them feel important and heard. But watch what happens the moment you set a boundary, the moment you say no, the moment you're not immediately available. They get irritated, they accuse you of changing, they make you feel guilty, they question your loyalty. That's not because you've become cruel or selfish, it's because you've stopped being useful to them, and useful people are supposed to stay useful. The most devastating part of this realization is understanding how much of your life you've wasted being emotionally convenient to people who never truly valued you. How many sleepless nights did you spend worrying about someone who forgot about you the moment their crisis passed? How many times did you cancel your own plans to be there for someone who wouldn't cross the street to help you? How many years did you spend trying to earn love from people who were incapable of giving it? This is the availability trap, and it's been destroying you one reaction at a time. Jung's revolutionary concept of psychic energy reveals something absolutely terrifying about human interactions that most people never recognize. Every conversation you have, every emotional reaction you give, every response you provide transfers your vital energy to other people. Think of it like a bank account. Every interaction is either a deposit or a withdrawal. Some people naturally give and take in healthy balance, creating mutually beneficial relationships, but others, they're psychological parasites who've learned to trigger your emotional buttons to drain you systematically, leaving you empty while they walk away energized. Here's how they operate, and this will make your blood run cold when you recognize it in your own life. They don't need to control you directly through force or threats. They just need you to keep reacting the same way, predictably, automatically, like a programmed robot. That colleague who always creates unnecessary drama right before important deadlines, knowing you'll stress and scramble to fix everything while they sit back and watch. That friend who dumps their relationship problems on you every single week, never taking your advice but always coming back for more emotional labor, more free therapy, more validation for their poor choices. That family member who guilt trips you into availability by questioning your loyalty, your love, your commitment, whenever you dare to set a boundary or prioritize your own well-being. Jung called this projection. They're unconsciously dumping their unresolved fears, insecurities, traumas, and chaos onto you like you're an emotional garbage disposal. And because you've been conditioned from birth to be helpful, understanding, and available, you absorb it all. You take on their stress, their problems, their emotional instability, and you carry it around like it's your responsibility. You become their emotional waste disposal system, their personal therapist, their validation machine, and you don't even realize it's happening because it feels normal. This is normal for you. But here's the key insight that changes everything. The realization that will set you free if you're ready to handle the truth. These people panic when you stop reacting. When you respond to their drama with silence, when you refuse to explain your boundaries, when you simply withdraw from their chaos without justification or apology, their entire manipulation system collapses like a demolished building. Your unavailability forces them to face their own emotional noise, their own internal chaos, their own unresolved issues, and most people will do absolutely anything to avoid that uncomfortable self-reflection. Watch what happens when you don't immediately respond to that person who always needs something from you. Notice how they escalate, how they try different tactics to get your attention, how they might even get angry or accuse you of not caring. This isn't because they miss you as a person, it's because your silence has taken away their emotional supply and they're going through withdrawal like an addict who can't get their fix. In our incredibly noisy world where everyone fights desperately to be heard, where people argue endlessly on social media, where everyone wants to respond quickly and prove their point even if it costs them their peace and sanity, Jung identified the most dangerous weapon of all: conscious, strategic, brutally effective silence. This isn't passive withdrawal or cowardly avoidance like some people might claim. This is intentional, calculated, powerfully communicative silence that speaks louder than 1,000 arguments and cuts deeper than any words ever could. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve explanations, you take away their power to keep you trapped in their emotional narratives. When you don't respond to provocations specifically designed to trigger you and make you react, you break their entire control system. When you simply disappear from situations that drain you without offering justifications or apologies, you force people to confront how much they depended on your reactions to feel in control of their own lives. True silence, the kind Jung understood, isn't the absence of voice. It's complete mastery over your own energy. It's the absolute refusal to be dragged into battles that aren't worth your peace. It's the conscious, deliberate choice to observe before acting, to choose your responses instead of reacting automatically to every stimulus, like a puppet whose strings are being pulled by everyone around you. Jung understood that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are instead of who everyone expects you to be, requires this distancing from the collective chaos. Only in silence can you hear your own voice without external interference. Only when you stop feeding everyone else's emotional needs can you reconnect with your own center, your own truth, your own power. Only when you withdraw from the noise can you discover who you really are beneath all the masks you've been wearing. But silence has a price, and you need to be prepared to pay it. It will distance you from people who only valued you for the role you played in their lives, not for who you actually are. It will make you seem cold, distant, or arrogant to those who never wanted to deal with your depth, your complexity, your authentic self. They only wanted your utility, your service, your availability. It will reveal how many of your relationships were built on your willingness to be emotionally convenient rather than genuinely respected. Your silence will be uncomfortable for others because it forces them to deal with their own thoughts, their own internal noise, their own unresolved issues. And this discomfort reveals more about them than any argument of yours could ever reveal. You don't need to explain your absence, it explains itself. Those who feel threatened by your silence reveal exactly how much they depended on your imbalance to maintain their own sense of control and superiority. Here's what Jung discovered about conscious unavailability, and this might be the most important thing you learn today. It's not about becoming cold, cruel, or heartless like some people might accuse you of being. It's about finally taking control of your energy, your time, your peace, and your life. It starts with small but revolutionary acts that will feel strange at first because they go against everything you've been programmed to do, not responding immediately to every message like you're on call for other people's emotions, breathing deeply before reacting to provocations designed to trigger you, leaving conversations before they drag you into chaos and drama, saying "not today" without guilt or extensive explanation, saying "I'm not interested" without caring if it offends someone, saying "I won't get involved" and meaning it. The most important part, the part that will transform your entire life, you don't need to justify your absence. You don't owe anyone explanations for protecting your energy, your peace, your mental health. This is absolutely unforgivable to people who've been using your availability against you, because when you refuse to explain yourself, you remove their power to manipulate you back into old patterns through guilt, emotional blackmail, or appeals to your past behavior. Jung understood that every individuation process involves what he called sacred isolation, not depressive withdrawal where you hide from the world in fear, but intentional retreat to rebuild your identity from your own center rather than others' expectations and demands. During this process, pay careful attention to who distances themselves when you become more reserved. Notice who tries to provoke you when you stop reacting to their bait. Watch who accuses you of changing when you finally start protecting yourself instead of sacrificing yourself for their comfort. These reactions aren't signs you're wrong or being too harsh. They're absolute proof you're breaking free from psychological manipulation systems that kept you trapped, drained, and serving others at your own expense. Being unavailable feels uncomfortable at first because you've been conditioned to believe your worth comes from your availability. You'll feel guilty for having boundaries, selfish for prioritizing your peace, harsh for not explaining yourself to people who don't respect your choices anyway. But this discomfort is the old conditioning dying, making space for your authentic self to emerge from underneath years of people-pleasing and self-abandonment. Conscious unavailability is the foundation of self-determination and personal sovereignty. When you say no to the world's demands, you're saying yes to yourself. When you withdraw from toxic environments, you're reaffirming that your peace is worth more than any false connection or fake relationship. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't respect your boundaries anyway, you begin to be respected even if it's by fewer people, because quality always trumps quantity. When you stop being available to everyone and their emotional demands, something absolutely profound begins happening that will change your entire understanding of yourself and your relationships. First comes the silence, an uncomfortable, almost deafening silence that seems to scream inside you. You wonder if you did the right thing, if you're being too harsh, if you're losing people who genuinely cared about you. You question yourself, your choices, your new boundaries. This is normal and expected. You're withdrawing from an addiction to other people's approval. But gradually, like the sunrise after the darkest night, this silence transforms. It begins to cleanse your mind of other people's voices and opinions. It calms the constant anxiety of trying to please everyone. It heals the wounds created by constantly sacrificing yourself for others' comfort. The silence that once felt empty begins to feel full of possibility, full of peace, full of your own authentic presence. Then comes solitude, but not the solitude of loneliness that you might fear. This is the solitude of total self-presence, the solitude of someone who no longer betrays themselves to keep others comfortable or happy. This is the solitude of strength, the solitude of someone who has chosen themselves over the approval of people who never truly valued them anyway. In that space where confusion once lived, crystal clear clarity enters. Where anxiety dominated your thoughts, genuine peace settles. Where desperate neediness controlled your choices, authentic strength grows from within. Jung said that individuation, becoming who you really are, requires you to distance yourself from collective expectations, to remove the masks you've worn for acceptance, to walk alone for a while until you find your authentic center. When you decide to become unavailable to everyone else's demands, you're not fleeing the world in fear, you're returning to yourself in power. At this crucial point in your transformation, you stop being a reactor and become a creator. You stop being shaped by circumstances and other people's moods and start shaping your reality from within. You stop being a victim of other people's energy and become the master of your own. People who feel uncomfortable with your absence reveal that they never wanted you as a person. They wanted the role you played in their emotional drama, the service you provided, the convenience you offered. You will lose people during this process, but you'll find yourself. You'll distance from toxic environments, but reconnect with your essence. You'll become misunderstood by those who never tried to understand you anyway, but finally respected by those who matter. Because when you're no longer available for emotional scraps, mind games, manipulation tactics, or connections disguised as love, you become valuable, rare, unforgettable. This is rebirth in its truest form, the beginning of a life where you only accept what resonates with your peace, your truth, your wholeness. A life where your energy goes to people and situations that deserve it. A life where you're no longer drained by vampires but energized by genuine connections. If you've made it this far in this video, part of you is already ready for this transformation. Part of you already understands that being loved means absolutely nothing if you have to abandon yourself to earn it, and that true self-love begins when you choose yourself, even if it means being alone for a while. The question that will determine your entire future is this: are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even resented in the name of your inner freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of choosing yourself over everyone else's comfort? Are you prepared to lose people who were never really with you in order to find people who will genuinely value you? The universe doesn't respond to what you give, it responds to what you allow. And when you finally stop allowing what drains, diminishes, and destroys your peace, when you become unavailable to energy vampires and emotional parasites, everything changes. Your entire life transforms. You become who you were always meant to be.